How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video today. We're going to be talking about why Persona 5, Persona 5 Royal are the best JRPGs, if not some of the best JRPGs to get into. If not, some might even consider this to be one of the best JRPGs just in general. My personal opinion, I think it's up there. I think it's definitely one of the best. But let's talk about why this game is so good and why so many people have clung to it and love it so much. We're going to be going into detail, talking about environment, music, gameplay, the engine it's in, the development time it took for it, what it was originally supposed to be, and many different aspects of this game. But let's jump right into this game and get right into why this game is the best JRPG, if not one of the best JRPGs to start off with. First things first, let's start with just the flat-out quality of life. How easy is it to get into this game? A lot of people find this game to be super easy to get into. Being a person who's played Final Fantasy, I've played Kingdom Hearts, I've played many other different JRPG types of games, just RPG type of games in general, and Persona 5 is one of the easiest to get into. Even compared to some of the other Persona games, it could be a little bit different, to get into, a little bit difficult to get into. Just because of this game's starting point and where it's at, it throws you right into the story. It doesn't have a super long tutorial stage. Typical thing for most JRPGs is the tutorial stage takes like an hour and a half to get through. If you played Persona, you know that this game is super good at just launching you sort of right into the action. You start with Joker being interrogated, you get thrown into the action, you get some movement, he's jumping around, he's doing all the different things. You feel like you're in the action already, and you're already talking to multiple characters, seeing multiple characters. You're already jumped right into the story, you're jumped right into the gameplay. It's very fun to get into. The tutorial stuff does not take super long to really jump into, even though this game can become very, very complex at the end. It teaches you certain things later on in the game, but not to the point where you're like, wow, why didn't they teach me that in the beginning? I wish I would have known that. It really doesn't do that to you. You just learn certain things later on. Small little tidbits, nothing really huge, but you just learn smaller things later on that don't really matter a whole lot to the start of the game, which makes this game so good. If you played Kingdom Hearts, you know the Kingdom Hearts games take a very, very long time to really get going. It takes like almost an hour and a half before you're jumping to a Disney World and you've known all the information you have. The tutorial stages on those take such a long time that you feel almost removed from the game. The fact it took you so long. I know a lot of people have short attention spans and they just quit games before they do that, but this game does a very good job at eliminating that and really putting you straight into the game. But let's talk about the story, just story in general for this game. I won't be spoiling anything. I'm not going to be spoiling any endings, any things that happens to characters, different things like that. All I'm going to be talking about is basically the first just couple minutes of the game, just to get you kind of hooked in and as to what the story is like. This game is basically the opposite of Persona 4's story. Persona 4, you don't know anybody who's, bad. You don't know anything like that at all. It's more of a murder mystery type of deal with Persona 4. But Persona 5, however, you do know a key villain right from the very beginning of the game. But there are secret hidden aspects of other characters that you don't know a lot about as to whose side they're on, what they're doing, different things like that. So there still is mystery, but you do know one common enemy from this game. Not going to spoil that as well, which sort of gives you a unique experience when playing this game. It's not going to be like your typical murder mystery type of game. It has deeper aspects than that, than just doing that. You see different things, different characters change over time, your confidence change. A person's story does not continue unless the player or the protagonist continues the game. Unless you continue the game and help that confidant out, that you do not actually see them progress with their personality, the events in their life. They don't unfold unless you do something about it. It is very fun to play that aspect of this game, and it feels like everywhere you go in this game, everything you do in the city life, the environments are beautiful, they look so cool, they're fun to go around. There's no big open areas in this game where there isn't something you can do. The story is bled through everything, and everything you do in the game is all throughout the game. Every little part of this game is very good and very fun to play in. There's a lot of different characters you can go to. You can buy things which help you in different spots of the game. The story entanglement is so good, which is definitely a big part of the environment. The environment of this game is very good as well. The two different elements of it anyway. You have the city, you're a Japanese student, I guess, and then you have the fighting crime as a phantom thief aspect. The two different dualities of this game, which is one of the most unique aspects of this game. You're a student on one hand, but on the other hand, you fight in the phantom thieves to fight crime. It's sort of like that thing you always wanted to be as a kid. You always wanted to be part of a secret organization to fight crime. Secret organization that just kind of did what they wanted to, but they kept it a secret. I think everybody at some point somewhat fantasized about joining a group like that. I don't know if that's just me. It might just be me. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. You let me know if that's just me down in the comments, guys. But it's such a fun aspect and a fun dynamic to play in. What you do on the social side of things, your confidants, affects what happens to you in the dungeons, the palaces, mementos, the different places you play in and battle in affects how you also do in your social life as well. Who gets changed? Who determines what happens when you're into mementos? There's certain people you don't have to save. Certain people's cognitions don't have to be changed in order for them to be better in the social overworld of things. Everything you do in the social world, the overworld, affects everything in the other side of things with the phantom thieves, fighting crime, the dungeons, and everything like that. The two sides of the coin affect each other perfectly, which blends this game so good and gives it very good game flow. Yes, I know I'm pulling out some words out of the hat, but game flow is very good on this. It transitions seamlessly between different things. Whenever you're about to go into palaces, you're talking about that with the other confidants. You're unlocking skills to use in battle, so it naturally flows into battle then whenever you transition to the battling world or the other world that you go into. Trying not to spoil things, trying to sort of beat around the bush so I don't spoil it if you haven't played this game, but it helps you so much. Everything you do on both sides of things affects each other. What you do during battling with the confidants, different characters you help change, cognitions change in real life as well, in the student life. So both aspects are affected perfectly, and it blends such a good flow with the game. Which moves me on to the characters and the cast of characters. I know Persona 5 and some of the other Persona games have somewhat been repetitive by some people. I've seen some people complain about that certain confidant cards, skills are the exact same as other characters, or other characters have similar personalities, I guess, to other ones. There's always like the bro type character like Chie is, and different bro like characters in Persona 5. But I think that's sort of different and unique because in some ways not every single game has that, where every single character is different and everybody goes off onto their own thing in this game. The different characters are fun. They're new. Every single person has certain things they like, certain things they don't like, and it's not like they say that one time. The entire game, those things stay the same, and you see those certain things in those characters, the quality of those characters flow in and out, and they go in and out of their personality. It's very fun to watch and a nice thing to see. It doesn't get old, which is very cool. Another thing that I've always said as a key aspect of games is music. Music is so important. If you've played a lot of JRPGs like Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, this game, the Persona series, the SMT series, ATLUS in general, Catherine, all of these different games have such a good soundtrack to them. Go to any conventions or Google up what it costs to buy a soundtrack. Go to eBay, dude, and look up what the Persona 5 soundtrack costs, what people are putting up those things for bids. Man, they are so expensive. I don't know what the deal is with those. They're so rare, I guess, that it costs so much. The vinyl records cost a lot as well, too. It's super rare to find all those things, and I don't blame them. The soundtracks in these games are absolutely beautiful. I'd argue that Persona 4 might be a little bit better, but Persona 5 is crisp, it's good. Each palace has their own theme, different character themes. The battle themes get you pumped up. It invokes emotion during certain parts of the game, which is super nice, and it helps you understand and feel what is happening to these characters when the music plays and when this type of stuff happens. Blend together the environment, the flow of the game, the quality of life, the music, the characters, the different endings the game has, the two different coins, the sides of this game, the different dynamics you get with this game. It's so fun and cohesive, and it works perfectly. Now, we've talked a lot about what the game looks like, sounds like, feels like, but let's talk to some more different things about the development of this game and why I think it's perfect. So, jumping from Persona 4 to Persona 5, I think the longest jump, or wait, I guess you could say, in terms of time of when we hadn't got a Persona game. Persona 1, 2, 3, and 4 all had about 2 or 3 years. I think one had 4 years, but Persona 5 had 5 to 7 years. Depends if you're talking about the Japanese release or the English release. Persona 4 to Persona 5 was the longest amount of time it took, and there's some different reasons as to why that is. In terms of game development, an idea was scrapped for this game, but due to the tsunamis that happened in Japan, they decided to focus on bringing the game centrally in Japan, right in the center at Tokyo. That's why the game takes place in Tokyo. Almost said that backwards. Instead of the idea they had of having older, I guess almost college students exploring the world, it was going to be a whole world game, but he wanted to focus on the way Japan was, how bright they were during this time of need when they needed to be together. He made a game. They wanted to make a game that felt like they were growing together and staying together and still seeing how beautiful their country was, which I think is a very cool story to have. Now let's also talk about the engine. The engine of the game is also why it took so long. Technically, any game before Persona 5 and the Persona series anyway had not been in HD, not 1080p HD. You can get Persona 4 Golden, play it on Steam, rescale it up to 1080p. Yes, it's technically 1080p. Yes, don't get me wrong on that. Technically it is. You can even run it at a higher frame rate. But the game wasn't created and rendered in 1080p HD, knowing that it's going to be also in 60 frames per second. Persona 5 is the first game in the line of ATLUS games, the Persona series, to actually be put into 1080p HD running at 60 frames while in mine. It's the only game in the Persona series to have that, which is why it looks so good. But not only just the gameplay, but also ends up being the cutscenes, the character cards, everything, the battle system in this game. It's all rendering at a higher performance, which is so nice and a good philosophy to have about games. They didn't want to keep making copycat games of theirs in the same engine. They wanted to expand out and make the game a lot bigger and better. I don't know if you knew this, but the studio was somewhat smaller, a lot smaller during the Persona 4 series. That's why they made the P Studios, which focused on solely just making Persona games so they can focus on all of their other games. When Persona branched out and branched away from the Shin Megami Tensei series, they decided to give it its own studio, which meant that they might have been cutting down some of their workers as they kept hiring more on and on, which explains why it took so long to make Persona 5. And honestly, I've always gone with the philosophy that if it takes a game developer a longer time to make a game, I'd want them to make it perfect before they release it, which is kind of strange considering they have Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Royal really has all of the different things that they wanted to have in Persona 5, but because of time constraints, money and whatnot, they had to just release the game. So technically, the definitive edition of Persona 5 is Persona 5 Royal, which I would recommend playing. I think that's the most enjoyable, I guess the funnest version of Persona 5 that you could play, and it's so good that way. So how accessible is this game? Who is it meant for? Who can play it? I think new players can. The stories in the Persona games don't really run together. Yes, there are certain aspects, Rise and the Katamin Kitchen characters, some of them can be seen here and there on posters and whatnot, but it doesn't mean it breaks the game. You don't actually have a cohesive story with all the different games. You can jump right into Persona 5, which is so nice. Unlike certain other games where you would be better off playing some of the older ones to understand more things about it. Sometimes playing an older game in this series ends up making the later game feel better when you finally get a conclusion to a certain character. Well, the characters are different in every Persona game. It's a different story. So that means you could jump right into Persona 5 if you're a brand new character. If you're a person who's always loved Persona, this game is even better. It has a better engine and everything else. Everything I've just talked about, it's still there. All the old things are still there, but it's even better and crisper and better to play this game because of all of the better things a new engine can do for it. And the older SMT players. I mean, technically Persona was part of the SMT series. Earlier on, Personas 1 and 2 and number 2, part 2, I guess you could say, were technically a Shin Megami Tensei game right off the bat. So old SMT fans, new and old Persona fans are playing this game. People who are playing just JRPG games in general are playing this. People from all over are playing this game, which I think is why it's doing so good. It's easy to get into, it's fun. Once again, all the different things I've talked about, the quality of life, the story, the flow of the game, the environment, the music, the characters, the different endings you can have. The new HD engine makes this game so good, and in my opinion makes it the best JRPG, if not the best JRPG to my personal opinion. It's my favorite game right now, has been for a long time. I'm very passionate about this. It's why I've made so many videos talking about this and shared so many different videos with you guys. And I really hope you enjoy them because I like making this content. I'd like to thank all of you for showing me all the love that you guys have so far. It's honestly been amazing. Reaching past 1,000 subscribers has just really surprised me. I never thought I'd get this far on YouTube, and I really enjoy talking about this kind of stuff. I don't ever think it'll get old. Let me know if you like these types of videos where I give deep thought and critical videos like this. Typically, I post Shin Megami Tensei or like Persona or just really anime game news in general, but I'd like to start making more videos like this, like my top 10 series, these critical in-depth series in general, just talking about the games, because it's really nice to actually sit down and think a lot more and think harder. I like making bigger production videos like these ones. They're really fun to make. And I thank you guys for liking all my videos and watching them if you have already. If not, I consider subscribing if you like Persona, if you like Shin Megami Tensei, or just Atlus games in general, or just hell, anime games at all. Odds are I'm gonna end up talking about them and making videos about them, and I really enjoy doing it. So thank you all for watching this video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.